So, Ginga. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since I've actually gotten the time to record one of these. Well, that's not true. I didn't have a lot to say on episode 4. Episode 5, I did record a vlog on, only for the audio in it for some reason to be screwed up when it wasn't in the streams I've been doing of Pokemon Let's Go. And so, yeah, it's finally time for me to play catch up. Probably doesn't help that I am working on a few other things at the moment at the same time. Yeah, custom full models. They've been taking up a bunch of my time to figure out work correctly. But regardless, Jinga. And here's where the main story finally gets going to an extent. In that Jinga, the horror, has woken up and is infrequently taking control of Jinga Mikage due to Jinga Mikage's, obliviousness for the most part. In episode 6, that kind of changes, but episodes 4 and 5, where we see the first emergences of him from that, not so much. The reason I didn't have a lot to say about episode 4 is it's not really focused on Jinga, but the um, fellow Makai Knight Hitoshi and his apprentice Shisho in their observations of Ginga and whether his ability to truly purify horror hosts of the tainted essence without killing them is indeed factual, or if he's actually another Makai Knight that has fallen to darkness, as the idiom for the series has been going. And, well, the ultimate sum is that they're going to keep an eye on him, but they're not completely sold on this yet, even though they want to believe in it. As far as Hitoshi's, actually, am I referring to the right character? It's like I'm actually I think I have the wrong character. Um, Kells Ramito, yeah, I think I have the wrong character. Huh. The wikis haven't been updated much in the way of guest actors. So I'm kind of flying blind if I can't remember their names. That's not it. Shijo is the guy's name. Ugh. So yeah, I'm trying to get the characters' names right, but I'm probably going to be screwing it up as no, Hitoshi is the horror of the episode, so that's not it. Huh, Nishimataro. Kurosawa Koji, maybe? No, someone else. Regardless, point is, the senior of the two is trusting, but the Shijo, the apprentice, who is assigned to stay alongside Jinga as, support and keep an eye on him at the end of the episode, well, Jinga wakes up and immediately murders him. Now, something that I noticed straight away when the episode ended and Jinga woke up is that it was caused by a rephrase, a blue butterfly, like the ones Amelie in the previous Garcers featuring Jinga and Amelie, was present. So I was thinking when that aired, I wonder if that's his trigger. And spoilers for episode 6, yeah, it seems to be, because Jinga then has a confrontation with Jinga, all sparked by seeing that blue butterfly again. In the interim, though, in episode 5, that was basically just a filler plot with Fusa. Am I getting the name right? Yep, Fusa being uh, an infiltrator in a I'm not even certain how to describe the place. Hostess club. Like been seeing the places as my roommates have been playing through the recent Yakuza game remaster releases, but I'm struggling to come up to remember the term used to describe them. Courtesans. Regardless, the horror is hiding among them as someone who manipulates corrupt humans to their own self-destructive ends, and possessing a woman who was swamped with debt from her mother's gambling, who was being forced into that kind of lifestyle. Now the host body seems to revel in it because the horror possessing her, which is, of course, a succubus, because doi, um, basically freed her to have the lifestyle she wanted and revel in, like, using men the way she was used by others, and not in completely in the sexually way, but manipulated and doing into self-destruction. I note though with Succubus's MO that her way of being her host's hero and allowing her the freedom to live how she wants, and this being the way she's chosen, is ultimately a means by which to replay the events of not that night, essentially making her relive the greatest trauma she would ever experience, which made her be possessed by horror in the first place, all to basically relive that same salvation. In other words, she's not really being allowed to move on, thus she's trapped in a cycle, and thus she's not really free. In theory, I like this because it's the kind of circular mistaken logic that we are supposed to see of the horrors who try and have some type of self-righteous tint to their actions in presenting the clear conceptual idea that no, you're not their saviors, you're just trapping them in a way that makes the hosts easier for you to manipulate and swallow their whatever sparks of brilliance or positivity that it can, so they can just breed more negativity for the host body and thus spread it all around. So while this series has been trying to paint its horrors in more of a black and white route, I kind of see this flaw in all of the others when you look a bit more at their actions. And thus, I don't want to say it's odd that Ginga isn't seeing them to outright refute them as previous, frankly, I'm going to say right now, better Garo series has done with the dispelling that self-righteousness instead of giving it a chance to voice its, I don't want to say condemnation, but rebuttal against their actions. But yeah, it's like, it feels like the protagonist should be more focused on that, but then again, this protagonist is not supposed to be Garo, the Knight of Hope, which obviously dissuading twisted thoughts would be part of. After all, I think the way this is going is Jinga Mikage having to struggle against his inner darkness that has come to be manifest as the horror Jinga that was his past life. So, of course, there would be a bit more of a wavering spirit. He's not supposed to be that shining beacon of positivity and hope. Not every Makai Knight can strive to be that, even though the mark on his arm that is purifying horrors seems to be acting like that in a different capacity. So, it's definitely achieving that balance I think they want. Is just I don't feel it's as compelling as the previous Garo series that, we're kind of consistent about this, whereas this is, I don't want to say in conflict with, but not contrasting the best against it, in that it might end up just calling out the prior series positivity as self not self-righteous egocentrism, but um definitely self-righteous in it not reflecting reality, even though Garo has been pretty good overall at, like, staying grounded and showing things that happen and occur in the real world that other tokusatsu series or even other adult programs don't really try to address that much. But regardless of all of that, the episode ends with Fusa needing Jinga's help, Jinga coming in and chasing off the horror, then chasing after it, and then it's seeming to disappear. Now, from the stage setting and Fusa finding I'm forgetting if it's a necklace or a bracelet, I'm going to say necklace, on the ground that she noticed on the horror-possessed woman's body as well, and it falling to the ground in such a way without the clasp in the back broken to let it be dropped. clearly implies to Fusa that something's not right about Ginga saying that the horror got away, especially as Ginga Mikage is using the body language of Ginga the horror, as we saw in Garo Goldstorm. And if I'm remembering this correctly, as it's been a few years since I saw Goldstorm, with the mannerism I'm noting of Jinga the horror in that was the one he used after devouring another horror, which I don't think was used much, but it's what's stuck in my head the strongest in that moment of what might have happened and all that, and why the horror suddenly disappeared like that. Which also would make sense to one of my current theories about Jinga's awakening, in that the the mark on Jinga's hand that's purifying the horrors, I don't think it's purifying the horrors. I think that Jinga Mikage had his essence awoken by the horror in episode 1 and has since been sucking the negative yang of the Inga that allows horrors to manifest out of the horrors and their host bodies to in then um, strengthen himself. And this would also explain why all the negative yang that allowed the horrors to possess their hosts has suddenly vanished entirely without sight, if as if Jingo was pulling that all out of him when he did this as well to leave them those kind of pseudo-indoctrinated, purified of all negativity people that we've been seeing. It actually would, all, as I believe I've said before in the first few vlogs I've done in this series, this would so much play into the good versus evil, black versus white duality the show is presenting, in that, yeah, Jinga as horror Jinga being the source of this blessed gift, but by proxy absorbing all of that horror essence has to be doing something to strengthen his own power. It's definitely something that plays into that very deeply, as you're inevitably going to be creating some unstoppable hellish abomination awash with all the powers that they've absorbed when it eventually manifests. And let's face it, if you've got an encroaching horror that's draining power off of other encroaching horrors to become stronger, you're inevitably going to have it break free from its host no matter what you do. Then it's not a good thing for Jinga Mikage to keep using this, as it's just a ticking time clock to Doomsday, which, hey, is how Garo series normally rolls, so I'm completely on board with that because, well, one, it's familiar, and two, it's a lot more subtle than how a number of series have done it, where they give a defined set countdown to Doomsday, like making it subtle and not completely seen up front. Yeah, that works for me, and allows it to again contrast itself against the other series, especially since, well, this is the second Garo spinoff to not be focused on just one lesser Makai Knight. The case in point, the Zero spinoffs. So I'm thinking that, bottom line, I think that's where they're going with this mark now, especially since in episode 6, the latest one to be subbed, had Jinga manifest himself in a pseudo-illusion dream and had Jinga Mikage need to fight him off in the latter half of the episode. And it kind of plays well with this in that Jinga has things he's intentionally ignoring towards this power and towards his responsibilities to the people around him, and his wavering strength because of, I'm assuming, the trauma of having to kill his father for the horror possession, if that even is still what actually happened that night. Who knows at this point? Um, has put a pretty big chink in his resolve of his mission, and that likely is tied back to his hesitation at the horrors who ask if they're really the bad guys in all of this. Since, and dwelling on that because of what happened to his dad, I think that more and more that I think about it and see how the series is going might legitimize some of his hesitations. But what I liked about Jinga in this, aside from getting a excellent extended fight scene of Masahiro Inoue versus Masahiro Inoue, where they do not break the suspension of disbelief about Jinga Masahiro Inoue fighting an actor posing as Masahiro Inoue. They actually um, display that pretty well without entirely entombing them in shadow or actually having uh, them green screen the both sides of the fight, which hey, we internet reviewers know much of when we have to do the clone similar appearance thing. Shoutouts to Linkara for how many times he's done that on the top of the fourth wall. Neither here nor there though. Yeah, the fight there is pretty good. Transitioning between how they used to do Garo fight scenes with a extended bouts out of the costumes, and then one with both of them in their respective Makai Knight and horror forms. And this is where I thought things got really good, as you got a excellent side by side, action by action in the same scene contrast between the Makai Knight armor that resembles Jinga's horror form and Jinga's horror form in and of itself, and with such similarity between the two horns that you can definitely see more and more that Jinga's horror form is just a rotted or the external armor shell cast off version of his Makai Knight form. It even stronger strengthens the illusion, especially since neither are completely black or shining with brilliance. Uh, Unfortunately, the early part of the episode is, I don't want to say weaker, but it feels a bit rushed as they track down a horror that is possessing a guy who has a day job being a stuffed, stuffed animal. No, not a guy in an animal costume that, well, possessed by horror, used that costume to commit murders and eat people, as horrors are wont to do. And his complicated relationship with a coworker that's obsessed with him, in that the horror actually started to give the woman attention that the guy, after his lost horror possession, finally has to fess up to on his own side. So honestly, not enough time is spent with that plot to really give a good, what's the phrase I want to use? It's not a complete story. It's like we enter it in media res, despite it having a beginning, middle, and end to it. Just not enough content to really make it that interesting. But it's a half their story point anyway, so they could finally focus on the big story stuff involved here. And the only other part from that is the older Makai Knight, who, again, I have no idea what his name is. I am not remembering it at all. Uh, Cast list. Rozan Gyoyu, I'm pretty sure that's not it. Kells? I'm pretty sure that's not it either. And I know Rumido and Ramido are the guardians of the related watchdog in this, so I am completely blanking on this guy's name, and I have no idea where to get it, because it's barely mentioned. It's like once or twice, possibly up to 5 times, spread through 2 or 3 episodes, and I have no idea what it is. Regardless, the senior monk guy knight is searching for Ginga and is now actively suspicious of Ginga because of the disappearance of his disciple. And honestly, I think he's holding himself back because, well, he wants this ability of Jinga Mikage's to not be a lie. Though he does question Fusa, he questions Fusa and asks if she'd seen anything odd, with her obviously flashing back to the previous episode on Jinga's odd actions. And it's unfortunately Fusa lies because I think she has the same problem as this older guy. She wants to believe in her partner, so they're both in their own way turning a blind eye, even though their suspicions are growing. You can see both of them are hesitant to say anything more because, as I said, they want to believe, and that belief and is, while giving a greater chance for this unknown menace to grow, is also doing a disservice to Jinga in that I think he needs someone to actually suspect and be concerned about what's going on with him, and I don't think that's being addressed appropriately, as I think he secretly wants, with how he's also noticing the oddities of Jinga the Horror's momentary awakenings and possessions. Something I didn't touch on before is that you see, after episode 4, you see small signs of Jinga the Horror waking up and him taking possession. So it's not just the um, him killing Shijo and then him killing the horror. No, and a couple times Ginga Mikage adapts mannerisms and body language previously seen of Jinga the horror. And I gotta give it to the directors and Masahiro Inoue on this performance as, well, it's pretty consistent. And I know Masahiro Inoue was the guy who played the character, so he would know how to swap personas the best, which again shows him as a good actor because, well, Jinga didn't exactly have all of his mannerisms back in the Kami no Kiba movie, so it would have been a while since he last did it. But him being able to play two different interpretations of the same character, the human and the Makai Knight form, rephrase, the human and the horror incarnation of them, and doing so much just with body language to distinguish the two of them. And not just body language, tone of voice as well. It was kind of odd in this one as when he was voicing Jinga the Horror and turning it into that more jovial, taunting self, it's like he did I don't feel like he got the voice right this time because he was a lot more gruff with it instead of the menacing playfulness you usually see from horror portrayals. Like it was like I keep saying the phrase like and I shouldn't be. It was like he was an octave off or something from what I usually expect it to be. Maybe maybe that was a result of some audio editing on their behalf, but it didn't sound like Jinga the Horror to me, and that's kind of unfortunate. Um, Regardless, even though this episode is like the halfway point in the series, I feel like it's finally starting to get stuff in motion and uh, whatnot. In that, with the 12 episode run to it, it has to be more moving towards the end of its story arc. Not that there's much to go on, but I feel like we were done with the filler episodes for the most part and are getting more to the point on addressing where this is going for the whole threat of Jinga emerging from Jinga. God, that sounds confusing. I think why it's better on point now is episodes 5 and 6 had the main writer of the series, Shu Tadakoro, excuse me, finally come back, whereas episodes 1, 2, and 3 were mostly written by Taizo Shioda, who was doing most of the filler for that beyond the initial story points. So I think there's a better focus of what's important, even though episode 5 was pretty much a filler episode, but it was definitely building up better in the background, the threat of the coming emergence of Ginga, so I'm looking forward to where that's going. Additional question you might all have. What's going on with the Ultraman Rube stuff? You posted a bunch of those videos, critiquing collections of episodes. What's going on with that? Sub backlogs, and thanks to Seasonal Peak, I am basically out of free time for it. Like, even with my, um, customization modification stuff, like I only have 1 day off a week now going forward until the end of December, so I literally don't have the time to check more on Rube for like vlog analysis. I'll try to get back to it when I can. It's just, you know, there's a limitation of how much I can work on stuff when I have 60-hour work weeks coming up. Yeah, so I'll do what I can. Is all I'm saying. It's not like the people subbing that series have been that up to pace with it the last few weeks. It's very sporadic in updates. It's like the show is in episode 20 now, and last I heard, episode 15 was subbed. So yeah. Plus, episodes 8 through 13 are wait. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 8 through 12 are one big story arc that kind of takes one big video to completely cover appropriately, and since it's been a few weeks since I watched those episodes, I probably need to watch them again to properly recap them, so yeah, time constraints. There's the big one there. Um, Also, since I'm here, yeah, finally started publishing videos again. You guys might have seen the Camera Double videos up for a few days, and then totally blocked them again for completely new claim stuff that had their bots not been doing it on waves every Sunday slash Monday ish. Could have been dealt with months ago. It's like I have no problems fixing stuff as long as the claim is made in a reasonable time. I literally had those double videos that I re-released sitting in unlisted with no claims on them for a freaking month. No claims. Then after release, automatic bot claims on new sections of them. And yeah, this is why the video replacement continues to be so slow. It's if they were all up front claims instead of fix the ones that I got claimed, uh, set the video to render, upload it, and then wait a week for any claims to appear as I'm going through, then those would be up far faster. But there's no other option to this because Toei has been so awful as usual about copyright claims. Literally nothing I can do about it. Hell, one of the other YouTubers I follow, Joy Boy, who does One Piece analysis videos, yeah, on the manga actually, so more recent stuff, actually got a bunch of claims from Shueisha, aka the guys who publish Shonen Jump, on comics content. And I heard from one of my Patreon sponsors that some of the Power Ranger comic reviewers have been getting hit as well, even though those are still images that tend to get moved around. So it's kind of harder to actually claim copyright on that kind of stuff because, well, it's copyright. It's harder to put that all in a digital archive for a system to scan them. So I'm not even sure what's going on with that. But regardless, YouTube's copyright system is just getting worse for everyone and more abusive for everyone and actually factually illegal for YouTube to leave it in this state because legal court cases have already ruled that fair use must be considered before the application of a claim, and it is in violation of fair use statutes for companies to just ignore it as they have been. So, yeah, YouTube's legal recourse is weakening day by day, and well, it's just going to be worse for everyone as there's no legitimate YouTube competitor anymore. But that's neither here nor there. That's just a bit of updates at the end of the video since I have the time for everybody. Um, since I still have a full day off where the roommates are not around, I should be able to keep up with Ginga throughout at least the end of the series. At the end of the year, yeah, last episode is slated to air December 28th, so maybe around New Year's will be the last one I actually touch on this. But if I miss a week every now and then going forward, it's likely due to just the audio for the video being screwed up. I don't know what's wrong with OBS right now. It doesn't do it during the live streams. It just does it when I'm off doing these solo recording bits. Or regardless of that, I didn't have enough material to talk on to make a reasonably sized video on. I know my videos can get very, very long and I get very rambly, but I don't like doing videos that are about 5 minutes long because it feels like I've wasted people's time with something that short. Yeah, that explains a lot about how I do my videos, doesn't it? So, yeah, more Jinga will be coming. I will be touching on it through the end of the year when it ends, and I will be seeing you all later.